Hello po! Welcome to another episode of Tagalog Time. In today's Tagalog lesson, we will learn how to use the word po. If you have ever listened to a Tagalog conversation, specifically between two people who have a significant age gap, maybe a younger person and an older person, then you have likely heard them use the word po. So what is this word? Why is it used when people are speaking Tagalog? And how do you use it? We will go over all of that in today's episode. So today's lesson agenda will be all about the word po. We will go over the who, what, where, when, why, and how of using it. We will talk about the history of it, where it probably came from. We will learn all of the different placements for it, and then we will practice where to put po in certain phrases at the end of the lesson. So first things first, what is po? Po is a part of speech that is used in Tagalog to show respect. I always tell the kids' classes that whenever you are speaking to an adult, you always have to use po. However, adults can also use po whenever they are speaking to someone who's older than them or if they're speaking to authority, and we'll go over that in just a minute. It's important to note that there really is no direct English translation for the word po. The closest things I can think of in English that are similar to the word po are the words ma'am and sir. I live here in North Carolina in the United States, and down here in the South, using ma'am and sir is a very respectful thing to do whenever you're speaking to someone maybe older than you or to anyone you want to show respect to. For example, someone might say, "Thank you, ma'am, thank you, sir," or "Yes, sir, yes, ma'am," whenever they want to show respect. And that's kind of the same idea with the word po. However, ma'am and sir aren't always used throughout the sentence, so it's not quite the same as po, but the idea is the same. So where did the word po come from? Some say that the word originated in pre-colonial times from this word apo. Now don't get confused, it's not the word apo, which means grandchild, but it's the Tagalog word apo, and it means Lord. But in pre-colonial times, and even in indigenous communities today, those who are well respected in the community were referred to as apo. That was kind of their title. That's what they were called. Just to tie it in with some current events, you might know the name Apo Wang Od. She was recently on the cover of Vogue, and she was the oldest woman to be on the cover of the magazine. She is a Filipino woman who comes from an indigenous community called Kalinga, and she is known for her tribal tattoos. She's one of the few people who still do these tattoos in the area, so it really is such a special thing. But again, she is called Apo in the community because she is well respected. And so with the word po, people think that it comes from this word apo. For example, back in the day, someone might have said, "Oo, apo, yes, Lord." And then eventually it was so commonly used that it was just shortened to the word po, and it was added throughout the sentence to show respect when someone was speaking. So that's kind of an accepted idea of where the word po came from. So why is po used? Well, the Philippines has a very respectful culture, and that can be seen through many practices. For example, children are taught at a very young age to do the mano po, also known as bless. And that is where the young person takes the hand of an older person and touches the back of the hand to their forehead. It's said that this was a way for them to grant a blessing from the elderly person. And that just emphasizes the idea of how people are taught to really respect their elders. Another way people show respect towards others is through the way they refer to each other. For example, the titles ate and kuya are used for people who are older than you. Ate is what you call an older sister or even an older cousin or friend who's a girl. These are usually someone who's just a little bit older than you, not too much older, otherwise they would be tita and tito. But if they are just like one generation older than you, then they would be considered your ate. Same with the name kuya. These are your older brothers or older cousins and friends who are boys. For example, if I am older than you, you could call me atepat. Your older cousin might be Kuya Sam, and so on. So again, these titles just show how respect is embedded in the family and community unit. As I mentioned, kids are taught to say po whenever they are speaking to their elders. So their parents, their aunts and uncles, their grandparents. However, it's important to note that adults also use the word po whenever they are speaking, of course, to their elders, so maybe their grandparents or their parents, but also to anyone in authority, so bosses or police or priests or doctors. So anyone they want to be respectful to, they would say po. When and where is the word po used? It can be used anytime. Whether you are just at home with your family, or if you're at the grocery store, or if you're at work, it's always appropriate whenever you want to show respect. Other than using the word po personally with your family, you might also hear the word po in hospitality settings. So for example, at hotels and restaurants. You will likely hear the staff speaking to you with the word po. And that again is just a way to show respect because you are a guest in that area. And that is just a way for them to be professional and respectful. All right, so how do you use the word po? Before we jump into the proper placements of po, let's go over some common Tagalog phrases that we can use as a reference. So first, the basic way to say hello and how are you in Tagalog is just kamusta ka, kumusta ka. To reply, you can say mabuti naman, I'm doing well, mabuti naman. Or if you're just doing okay, you can say ayos lang, ayos lang. And if you're not doing well, you can say hindi mabuti, hindi mabuti. Say these phrases with me one more time. Kamusta ka? Hello, how are you? Kamusta ka? Mabuti naman. I'm doing well. Mabuti naman. Ayos lang. I'm doing okay. Ayos lang. Hindi mabuti. I'm not doing well. Hindi mabuti. Next, if you want to ask for someone's name, you can say, ano ang pangalan mo? Ano ang pangalan mo? Your response would be, ako si blank. I am blank. I would say, ako si Pat. Ako si blank. Next, if you want to ask where someone is from, you can say, taga saan ka? Where are you from? Taga saan ka? To reply, you can say, taga blank ako. I am from blank. Taga Manila ako. Taga blank ako. Let's say these phrases one more time. Ano ang pangalan mo? What is your name? Ano ang pangalan mo? Ako si blank. I am blank. Ako si Pat. Ako si blank. Taga saan ka? Where are you from? Taga saan ka? Taga blank ako. I am from blank. Taga Manila ako. Taga blank ako. Next, if you want to ask how old someone is, you can say, ilang taon ka na? How old are you? Ilang taon ka na? To reply, you can say, blank ako. I am blank. 30 ako. Blank ako. Next, if you want to ask about someone's job, you can say, ano ang trabaho mo? Ano ang trabaho mo? To reply, you can say, blank ako. I am a blank. Nurse ako or teacher ako. Let's say these phrases one more time. Ilang taon ka na? How old are you? Ilang taon ka na? Blank ako. I am blank. 30 ako. Blank ako. Ano ang trabaho mo? What is your job? Ano ang trabaho mo? Blank ako. I am a blank. Nurse ako. Blank ako. All right, so we learned some common phrases. Now let's see where po would go in these phrases. First, the most common placement for po is that it is the second word in the sentence. For example, saan po ang CR? Saan means where, po is a sign of respect, ang means is, CR stands for comfort room. It's what they call the bathroom in the Philippines sometimes. So saan po ang CR means where is the bathroom? So po is the second word in this question. Another example is natutulog po siya. Natutulog means sleeping. Po is a sign of respect. Siya means he or she. It's gender neutral. So we would have to find more of the context clues about this phrase. But this essentially means he or she is sleeping. Natutulog po siya. Again, po is the second word in this phrase. The second rule for the word po is that it goes after the words ko, which means I, or na, which means already. So if either of these words appear in a phrase, po would go after that word, ko or na. For example, nakita ko po yung kotse. Nakita means saw, ko means I, po is a sign of respect, yung means the, kotse means car. So I saw the car. Nakita ko po yung kotse. Po is after the word ko. Another example, kumain na po ako. Kumain means ate, na means already, po is a sign of respect, ako means I. So I already ate. Kumain na po ako. Po goes after the word na. Lastly, po goes after a set phrase. For example, maraming salamat po. Thank you very much. Maraming salamat po. Also, it can go after the phrase magandang umaga po. Good morning. So these are just some set phrases and po goes after them. I will note that if you don't remember these po placements, you can always add po at the end of anything you say, and it will always work. It will be respectful. It might not be the most common placement for the word po, but it does the job. So if you don't remember that po goes after the word ko or after the word na, just add it to the end of the phrase and you will be respectful. And that's the ultimate goal. All right. Now let's talk about po pronouns. This is very important. Whenever we are using the word po, you have to change the singular you pronoun to the plural you pronoun. For example, the word mo turns into the word nyo. The word ko turns into the word kayo. Depending on the sentence, mo means you or your, and ko means I or my. And these are singular pronouns. So anytime you are using the word po, you have to use the plural you pronoun, nyo and kayo, respectfully. And they do this in other languages as well. They do this in French. I took 5 years of French between high school and college. And anytime you refer to someone in a respectful way, you have to use the plural you pronoun. And you do this even if you are just speaking to one person. So that can get a little confusing. People always ask, so if I'm only speaking to one person, but I'm still using the word po, I still have to refer to them in the plural you? Yes, you do. So anytime you are trying to be respectful and you are using the word po, you have to use the plural you pronoun. And we will see how that works in these examples. So just to review the common phrases we just learned, kamusta ka? Hello, how are you? Mabuti naman, I'm doing well. Ayos lang, I'm doing okay. Hindi mabuti, I'm not doing well. Now, if we want to be respectful, let's see where po would go in these phrases. Kamusta ka turns into kamusta po kayo. So po is the second word in this question. And then ka becomes kayo. So that is an example of where the singular you pronoun becomes a plural you pronoun. So kamusta ka becomes kamusta po kayo. Next, mabuti naman becomes mabuti naman po. So that's just a set phrase. It would go at the end of that. Very similar, ayos lang becomes ayos lang po. Again, it just goes at the end because it's a set phrase. And then lastly, hindi mabuti becomes hindi mabuti po. Again, that's just a set phrase. You might hear someone say, hindi po mabuti. I've heard that before, so it can also be the second word in this phrase, hindi po mabuti. But since it's a set phrase, I would add it to the end, hindi mabuti po. So those are some examples of where po would go. Just some more common phrases. Let's review. Ano ang pangalan mo? What is your name? Ako si Pat. I am Pat. Taga saan ka? Where are you from? Taga Manila ako. I am from Manila. Now let's see where po would go in these phrases. Ano ang pangalan mo becomes ano po ang pangalan nyo? So po is the second word here, goes right after the word ano. And then mo becomes nyo. So again, the singular you pronoun becomes a plural you pronoun. Next, ako si Pat becomes ako po si Pat. Po is the second word in this phrase. Taga saan ka becomes taga saan po kayo. So this po placement does not really fall into any of the three major placements that we learned. But I do want to point out that ka becomes kayo. Again, that is where the singular you pronoun becomes a plural you pronoun. And lastly, to respond, taga Manila ako becomes taga Manila po ako. So in this case, po is the third word, so it doesn't really fall into any of the categories that we learned earlier. But when in doubt, you can always add po to the end. Taga Manila ako po. That will also work. In fact, when I was a kid, that's what I was taught. Just always add po to the end of anything you say. The more you hear people speaking Tagalog, you'll catch on to where po typically goes. You'll hear the flow of the sentence, and you'll learn where po might and might not go. Alrighty. Ilang taon ka na means how old are you? 30 ako. I am 30. Ano ang trabaho mo? What is your job? Nurse ako. I am a nurse. Let's see where po would go in these phrases. Ilang taon ka na becomes ilang taon na po kayo? So po goes after the word na anytime it appears in a phrase. And then ka becomes kayo. So ilang taon na po kayo? How old are you? 30 ako becomes 30 po ako. So po is the second word placement there. Ano ang trabaho mo? Becomes ano po ang trabaho nyo? Po is the second word placement here. And then mo becomes nyo. And lastly, nurse ako becomes nurse po ako. Po is the second word placement in this phrase. All right, let's try some practice questions. Just to review, these are the three common placements of po. Usually it's the second word placement in a phrase, or it goes after the words ko or na if either of them appear in a phrase. And lastly, it goes after a set phrase. And then the most important rule is anytime you are using po, you have to use a plural you pronoun instead of the singular you pronoun. So like the phrase we learned, taga saan ka? Where are you from? Turns into taga saan po kayo? Ka becomes kayo. You would never ever hear someone say, taga saan po ka? The po and the ka are never together since that is a singular you pronoun. You always have to change the ka into kayo, which is the plural you pronoun. Taga saan po kayo? All right, so let's do some practice. What is the proper placement of po in these phrases? Maligayang bati, happy birthday. Maligayang means happy. Bati means a greeting. So happy greeting, usually used for happy birthday. Maligayang bati. I'll give you a hint. This is a set phrase. So think about that. Maligayang bati, happy birthday. Where would po go there? Next, binili ko yung laruan. Binili means bought. Ko means I. Yung means the. Laruan means toy. So I bought the toy. Binili ko yung laruan. Where would po go in this phrase? Binili ko yung laruan. And lastly, kinain ko na yung pagkain. Kinain means ate. Ko means I. Na means already. Yung means the. Pagkain means food. I already ate the food. Kinain ko na yung pagkain. Where would po go in this phrase? Take a minute and try to think of where you would put po in these phrases. All right. Maligayang bati becomes maligayang bati po. So that is a set phrase, so po would just go at the end of that. Maligayang bati po. Next, binili ko yung laruan. I bought the toy. Becomes binili ko po yung laruan. Po would go after the word ko in this phrase. Lastly, kinain ko na po yung pagkain. So remember, one of the rules was it goes after the word ko or na if either of them appear in the phrase. What if they both appear in the phrase? It would just go after both of them. So kinain ko na po yung pagkain. Po goes after the word na, which is after the word ko. So did you get it right? I hope you did. It does take some practice, but remember you can always add po to the end of your sentence. All right, so just a quick note. What is the difference between po and ho? For example, someone might say ano po, which means what? Someone else might say ano ho, which also means what? What is the difference between po and ho? Well, both are a sign of respect. They have the same placement rules that we just learned. However, ho is considered to be a little bit more informal and po is formal. Some people might use the word ho when they are speaking to an elderly person who is not really close to them or a stranger who they don't really know well. For instance, some people use the word ho when they are speaking to an older person who they don't really know very well. So maybe an older stranger or just an older acquaintance, they might use the word ho. Whereas po is really saved for older people in their family, people they really know and want to formally respect. I personally don't use the word ho very often. I just use po for everyone when I want to be respectful. However, I have heard people use the word ho whenever they're speaking to someone kind of informally, but also still respectful. You might hear it in movies or Filipino shows or things like that. Just know that it is equivalent to the word po, but just a little bit less formal. Alrighty, so we learned a lot today. We learned the placements of po. We learned a little bit about the history, where it comes from, how to use it, when and where. And then we were able to practice a little bit. So I encourage you, maybe when you are speaking to your parents or to your grandparents, just practice saying po, even if it's in English. Try adding po to anything you say at the end, even if it's an English phrase. That way you can get in the habit of using po and being respectful towards others in this way. If you would like to stay connected and get notified whenever I have a new Tagalog lesson, I encourage you to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And please follow me on my other social media platforms. I have a lot of other good content there as well. I'll see you in our next Tagalog lesson. Paalam!